We're in the middle of the Malbim. We're not going to go over all the problems again, but simply put, according to the Malbim, this was the plan. Based on the idea that the word Tsur and the word Sela represent two different kinds of rocks, based on that, says the Malbim, the original time, 40 years earlier, when Moshe Rabbeinu had to get water out of a rock, that rock was described as a Tsur and Taka. The only way to get water out of a Tsur is by hitting it, because a Tsur is a solid rock, non-porous at all. There's no water in it, no water gets absorbed in it, it's solid rock. The only way for that rock to be water is it has to turn into water. We have to take the element earth, which is what the rock is made up of, and change it into one of the other elements, water. That's a massive miracle that can only be accomplished by applying some outside force to that rock, because no element will on its own turn itself into another element, even though God could do whatever God wants. God tries to minimize miracles as much as possible, and to take an element which was created as earth and ask it to stop being earth that it was created as and turn itself into water, it needs an outside force like hitting with the stick. So claims the Malbim. And therefore, when God was going to do that miracle, God had Moshe gather everybody in front of the Tzur. They all stood there, and he had to hit that Tzur to turn it into water. 40 years later, when there's no water, there's no Tzur. It's a Sela. A Sela is porous rock, a mountain, a mound of porous rock, which would have water in it anyways, absorbed from the rainfalls, seeping in through the cracks, eating away. There will be cavities and pockets of water in there. There's two ways to get people to drink. You could simply crack off the opening to this sort of well of water or cavern of water or cut out hole of water there, and because it's in there, there's probably pressure building up as the rainwater seeps in and eats away. Right? If you just crack off the little opening, water would come out. Right? To crack it off with your hand or knock it off with a stick would be no miracle whatsoever, except that while we happen to know exactly where to hit it. Right? If you want to turn that into somewhat of a miracle, you could talk to it and say, please crack open and give forth the water that's in there. And then when it would do it, that would be a miracle. Not razzle-dazzle, huge, massive, but a miracle nonetheless. That's not what God wanted here. Because of their horrific lack of faith, their total falling apart at the end of 40 years in the desert, that when there's no water, they just don't say, oy vey, the rolling well has stopped, Moshe, what's next? They say, what are we doing here? And there's no God. Da, 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 da. God says, your faith has faltered. I need to do a massive miracle to reinstate their faith. We need a razzle-dazzle miracle. What kind of razzle-dazzle miracle can you do with the Sela, right? There's water in there anyways, for God's sake. So you can talk to it and it'll crack open. That's a miracle, but not razzle-dazzle. Well, what if we turn the Sela as also earth element, though porous, but it's still earth. If I could take the earth of the Sela, turn it into water, that would be your same razzle-dazzle miracle that we had way back when. But that won't appear as a miracle because people will say, oh, you didn't turn that earth into water, that's the water that's inside, is coming out. Therefore, there was a two-step plan. The first stage is go to the Sela, right? Speak to it, do a smaller miracle, speak to it, have it crack open and empty out its water. That'll be a miracle, not amazing. The people will see that. They'll be impressed, but you know they're really going to be impressed by? Because you're not going to let them drink it. You're going to let the water right out and empty out, which will freak them out. We've got to drink. I mean, that was good. Okay, cracked open. That was pretty good. Nice miracle. Give us water. Says, no. You haven't seen nothing yet. That was cute. Miracle. But let all the water. I know you're thirsty. Don't touch the water. Right. So just don't touch the water. Rock is now empty. Anything inside? Anything here? See the rock? Anything in this rock? Does the rock have any water left in it? No? Sure? Positive? Absolutely. Wonderful. We're now going to take this Sela, which for all intents and purposes is now in the same situation as a Tzur, right? Rock with no water. I'm going to turn it into water. just like I did 40 years ago, which of course will necessitate the stick, the mat, just like 40 years ago. Okay? If you will hit the selah first, then you won't even have the minimal miracle, the little miracle. Because they'll say, oh, you took the water out by knocking off the top. Then you have zero miracle. Right? So you can't hit the selah, then you'll have zero miracle. Speaking to the selah to give forth the water that's in it gives you minor miracle. So we're going to do minor miracle, empty it out, then do major miracle by hitting it and turning it into water, and then you're going to have them drink. That's the plan. Moshe understood the plan. The reason we know that, because the pasuk goes out of its way to add. Let's look at the verses for a second. If you have your verses in front of you, let's look at the verses one. Well, I've got that one last time. But look at the verses again. See how beautifully it reads into the Malbim, and then we're going to see tonight what went wrong. Chapter 20, verse 7, page 256 in the All Hebrew. Chapter 20, verse 7 in the English. Okay? Vaydaber Hashem el Moshe lemor, and the Lord spake to Moses, saying, Kach es hamate, take the mate, because you will need it in the second stage of this miracle. Hakel es ha'eda, gather the eda, ata you, v'aron achicha, and Aaron your brother. Okay? That's what you got to do. Take the stick and gather everybody. What do? First of all, speak to the selah in front of them, and it will give out its water, meaning the natural water that is seeped into the selah. You'll get it out by speaking to it, which is a shtickle miracle, granted. That's a great little bit of a miracle. Let it give out its water. What do you do with that water? Let it give out its water. Don't do anything. Just let it give out its water. It'll give forth all its water. You won't drink it, it'll go to waste. Then what are you going to do? Now that the selah is dried out, you will then bring water out of the earthness of the selah by turning it into water. Obviously through hitting it, like you did 40 years ago. Then then you will give the Eda and their flock, you will give them water to drink, because you, by hitting the selah, will have turned it into water, because earth turning into water is only done by you, by adding on an extra force. That's the water you'll give them, and that's the plan. Did Moshe understand it? Yes, he did. Moshe took the mate from in front of God. Ka'asher tzivahu, words which are totally unnecessary. Obviously took it like God commanded. God just commanded him. What do you mean he took it like God commanded him? He took it with the understanding to use it the way God had created the plan. To first speak, empty out, and then hit. He took them out there, understanding what God's plan was. That's why those words are extra. That's why that whole verse is there. So you shouldn't think maybe what went wrong was he didn't understand the plan. No, he understood very well the plan. Something else went wrong. And now our question is, what went wrong?
Even if we were to say that one miracle is greater than another, that the turning it into another from earth to water is a great miracle. A miracle, like, what was God thinking? That the Jews would see a small miracle and their faith wouldn't be restored to the extent that he wanted it?
Right. It would be, right, God wants them to understand that God controls the world. He controls the elements. You have food because God wants you to, not because God helps you out a little bit, but basically you're doing it, right? There is nothing without God. You do nothing. All your energies are really just because God told you to make an effort, but whatever's going to happen is totally incomplete.
So they wouldn't be impressed until...
They would be somewhat impressed, but obviously not enough to enter the land of Israel, start plowing and planting and farming, and being able to realize that even though they're plowing and planting and farming, it also only grows because God said so. Excellent.
This system also involves them in the theater of it much greater. The people become much more involved because it's two stages.
Right, and there's water which disappears. Yeah, correct, right? It clearly it's much more dramatic. It's right. It's a whole production. Right? So again, the verse stresses that's the beauty of the Malbim's Shah, because it explains that whole unnecessary verse, because verse 9 was completely unnecessary, because we know he took the stick. So doesn't have to tell us that he took it. It's obvious from the next verse he took it, because he hits the rock. And obviously if he took it like God commanded. Didn't take it for no good reason. So he says the pasuk is repetitious, because it wants you to realize that what went wrong was not that Moshe didn't understand the complexity of the plan. He understood very well exactly the complexity of the plan. So what happened? Something went wrong. Here we go. Back into the mountain. Let us look at the verse, because that's the verse he's going to talk about. Verse 10, verse Yud. Vakilu Moshe v'Aaron es hakahal el pnei hasal. And Moshe and Aaron gathered the kahal in front of the cellar. And as I told you last week, the punchline is going to be that when God asked them to gather everybody, he used the word Ada. Gather the Ada and give water to the Ada. And Moshe gathered the kahal el pnei hasela. And when he saw the kahal, to them he said, Shimu na hamorim, listen, you rebellious people, which is going to be based on the fact that they're a kahal, not an Ada, which was inappropriate and incorrect on their part, and therefore he believes has now muffed up the whole thing. And he says, Hamin hasela zevasila chamayim, can I get water out of this rock? That's much how the Malbim learns it. Okay? Says the Malbim. If you have your Malbim, which is the all Hebrew sheet which says a Barbanel first, right? If you want to know where we are, if you take these sheets which say a Barbanel on them, with the staples on the right-hand side, and turn one page, it's 2 pages, 3 pages, 4 pieces of paper, the back of the 4th piece of paper, you will see on the right-hand side, bottom paragraph, Yud. Pasuk Yud, spelled Yud, Vav Daled Yud, which is how we spell Yud, right? Pasuk Yud, Vayakilu Moshe v'Aaron es hakahal. And Moshe and Aaron gathered the kahal el pnei hasal. Says the Malbim. Ata now yisaper. The story's good. The Torah's going to tell us a story. Masha nitchadesh leMoshe. What new thing, right? What new element got introduced to Moshe? Sheba avuro, that because of this new point, nata, he turned away. Midivrei Hashem, from the words of God, didn't do what God said, but rather he got the Selah taketh. He hit the Selah, the rock, right away. The Pam Rishon in the very beginning. Why did he do that? Because that's what he did. He hit the rock right away. He just dropped the whole 2-step process and hit it right away. And obviously water came out because he knocked off the top and took water out, and you had mamish like nothing, right? Nothing. You didn't even do the speak to the rock and let it crack open, minor miracle, right? And why did he do that? What? And now it couldn't be because he just said, heck with it, I'll do it my way. That's obviously ridiculous. Something new happened which caused Moses to think that this is what's the right thing to do. It obviously wasn't. Yes?
I'm sure it doesn't matter, but why does it spell Yud?
Oh, I don't know. That's the principle. It looks cool. I don't know. That's right. I have no idea. Okay? Now, not a problem. Okay? Because you know the beauty of the word Yud. Yud is spelled out, when you write the word Yud, you spell it Yud, Vav Daled. Of course, Yud is 10, and Yud is Yud, and Vav Daled 6 and 4 is 10. Right? So the first letter is 10, and 6 and 4, the amount also 10. Okay, let's think about that for a minute. Okay, here we go. So what happened? Ki. Okay, everybody with me? And then paragraph 4 lines down. Ki Hashem amar Moshe. Hashem told Moshe, v'hakel es ha'eda ata v'Aaron aticha. God told Moshe, gather the Ada, you and Aaron your brother. V'heim, but they didn't do that. Heim hikilu, they gathered together as hakahal, the kahal. What's the difference? Oh, there's a big difference. Ukvar by Eretzli. It's already been clarified to me. The Torah HaMitzvah, in his commentary on Vayikra, CHUMASH Vayikra, I've already explained there's a difference. Sheyesh Hamdel, there's a difference. Bein Ada, between the word Ada, community, gathering, Ubein Kahal, community or gathering. Right? And this is classic Malbim. Just like the Malbim differentiated between Sur and Selah, he differentiated between Kahal and Ada. The whole crux of the Malbim's commentary on the CHUMASH is that there's no synonyms. Everything has a different meaning. Right? And what's the difference? Shebishem Ada. The name Ada, Nikru'u, the Jews are called that, Be8 at a time, Sheba'u, where they gather together, Beseder Nachod, in a proper order. Ziknei and Barashem, the elders at the head. Shiaz Nikru'u B'Shem Ada. Then they are called with the name Ada. Mitzad HaSanhedrin, based on the Sanhedrin, the high rabbinical court. Shem Eikar, which is the main thing, the elders, the leaders, which are also called the Ada. Einei HaAda, the eyes of the Ada. Ada refers to the elders, so they're called an Ada when they put the elders in front and are led by the elders. Right? Ubeshem Kahal, they're called a Kahal. Nikru, they are called Kshiyit Kamtsu Hehamon, when the Hamon, when the multitudes, when the rabble gather, Shalom B'Seder, without any order, Shalom B'Seder Nachon, without a proper order. The Ein Ziknei Marashi, the elders are not given the respect to be in the front. Right? That's a Kahal. Kahal is when they're gathered as a rabble without the elders in front. Vihina. Now remember, we're going back to the Tzur, to the 40 years ago, because we're trying to mimic, right? God's trick is to mimic the original razzle-dazzle miracle that got him going 40 years ago when they started out in the desert. Right? Took a Tzur, turned it into water, flipped them out, and they had faith. Right? Now, 40 years later, before they enter the land of Israel, he wants to do it again. But he has a cellar, so we have to empty out the water out of the cellar, right? Turn it into essentially a Tzur, then do the miracle. All right? That's the trick here. He says, if you remember, when he got water out of that sewer, Bechore, back at Har Sinai 40 years ago, like approximately 40 years ago, Shayagavke, that was also a Pi Nes Gadol, that was through a great miracle. Shachomer Hatzur, the material of the rock, Yisod Hafar, the earth element, Shabo, its earth elementness, Nithapech, turned into Lamaim, into the water element, Shalkain, Haya, Zel, Yidei Haka'a, and for that reason it was through hitting it. Lo Ayidei Dibur, not by speaking, as he explained. Back then, if you'll remember, Amalo Hashem, God had told Moshe, Avor Lifnei Ha'am, pass in front of the nation, Kachitcha Mizikanei Yisrael, choose out the elders of Israel, Hineni Omed Lefanecha Sham, I personally, God's presence will be standing there, Al Hatzur, on that Tzur, and Chorev, Vikisa Batsur, then you'll hit the Tzur, V'yetza Mimenu Maim, and water will come up and Shatam, and everyone will drink. So there the setup was clearly, the elders were gathered, Moshe led the elders out, so you had the elders in front, God's presence was there. I mean, we're talking about a major miracle where it turned earth into water, right? And then he hit the rock and it worked. That's how it happened last time. And God told them this time, Hakel, gather the Ada. The elders have to be in front. This is a major miracle. We need the Korah. We need the holy people in front. We need, right? And Moshe understood that. Of course, we're repeating that great miracle. I mean, to talk to the rock, let it crack open. But to do that great miracle, we have to go back to that original format to make gather the Ada.
We keep saying that he was kind of stuck with the cellar, and that's why he did it this way. But in fact, God intended it to be a two-stage miracle because it's
right. Yeah, he was stuck with the cellar. It was a cellar. God wanted to start with the cellar. Right, 100%. But now that but in order to do that sewer miracle, right, we have to recreate the situation we had the last time, which was the Ada, these Canaan, the elders. And God Taka said, gather the Ada. Moshe said, oh, of course, gather the Ada. Elders in front. 40 years ago, elders in front. I understand that. Right? Keep asher hafok yisod liyisod acher, because when you're turning one yisod, one element, the yisod acher into a different element, earth to water, zenes gadol is a great miracle. Hayat sarich sheish tatefi mo, you have to join in with him at Haskanim, the elders. Shehem hayu ru'uyim, they're worthy. Sheyasenes gadol kazelafim, they are worthy of having such a great miracle being done in front of them. Got to be worthy of a great miracle. General rabble is not worthy of such a great miracle. Then he what? What? Right? To talk to the cellar, let it crack open. A great miracle like that, who's worthy of a great miracle? Elders are worthy of a great miracle. Therefore, back 40 years ago, the elders had to be in front. They had to be the ones witnessing the miracle. right? They were worthy to see and have such a miracle. So everybody else merited along with them, and their honor, the miracle was done, and the rebels, tagged along, right? Hashem hayabarosham, God was right there in front. K'moshe Katuv, it is said 40 years earlier, Hineni omeid lefanech Hashem, I'm going to be standing there. Shaneis gadol kazeh, such a great miracle, it's impossible. She has said that it should be done rak only lefnei haru'uyim, those that are worthy. V'muchanim lezeh, those that are prepared and ready for it on a spiritual level. V'chein hisnepo, and that was a condition that God made here. V'amro, when he told Moshe, hakel esa eda, gather the eda. Hainu, meaning haskanim, the elders, Sanhedrin, the high court. You baroshim, they should be in the front. Sharakas kanim, only the elders, hayu ru'ugim l'neis hagadol hazeh, are really worthy for such a great miracle. So they have to be in the front watching the miracle. And everybody else is tagging along. Moshe ra, but Moshe saw ki nikalu hakahal. It was the rabble. It was the general populace that gathered. El Penei Hasala, right in front of that rock. They pushed their way forward. They shoved the elders out of the way. It was the lowlifes, right? The rabble that was standing right in front of the rocks. Okay, Moshe, let's go, it's happening, man. Let's go, miracle guy. Where's miracle? What, for you guys? Yeah, we want a miracle. You want a miracle? You got a miracle. You got the miracle you're worthy of, right? What do you think I'm going to do? You think you guys are going to get razzle-dazzle, turn earth into water miracle? Who, you guys? What, are you kidding me? Right? You can't do that for these kind of guys. God said specifically Ada, and Moshe understood why God said Ada. Right? Of course, you need a razzle-dazzle miracle. You need somebody worthy. 40 years ago, it was all in front of the elders. Right? So Moshe saw the kineklu kahal. The kahal gathered upon the asala. Shetachet instead. Shahaya ru'ui. What would have been appropriate? Shaz kenim, the elders, yubarosh, they will be in the head. Zehem yamdu, and they will stand el panei asal, in front of the rock. Karov, close, el makomenes, close to the place of the miracle. Instead of that, nikalu hakahal, the kahal gathered. Shema hama, that's the rabble, the general lowlight populace. Ki'am hayat parua, the nation was wild. Mordim, but Kedim, they were rebelling against the elders. They were flipping out. There's no water. Stinks, right? The old guys messed us up. We're all going to die. Right? V'nekalu kahal hamon rav. The great multitude gathered. The hamon hayuel pnei asela. The hamon, the rabble, was in front of the rock. Lo ha'eda, not the Eda, Shema Sanhedrin, the high court. So now what's Moshe supposed to do? What do I do now? Stick with the plan? What am I going to do? So I'm going to talk to the rock, and it'll crack open for sure, because they're worthy at that moment. Right? It'll crack open, and then let the water go to waste. And they're going to have a heart attack. They're going to completely flip out. But I'm going to say, okay, relax. Watch this, everybody. And then we're going to do the razzle-dazzle miracle, turn it into water. But I'm not sure it's going to work. Because is the earth going to turn into water for these clowns? Is the earth going to turn into water for the rabble? God said very clearly 40 years ago, right? You need the elders. God said now, have the elders. I don't got no elders. What if I do the two-step process, and then step 2 doesn't work because there's nobody here worthy for it? You know what's going to happen then? They're not going to have any water. They're going to say, thank you very much. We're going to be worse shape than we were when we started. On the other hand, God told me a 2-step process. But he did say with the elders, which I understand because you've got to be worthy for such a miracle. So now I'm stuck. He goes with God's plan and the miracle doesn't happen because it was supposed to be elders. Everybody's going to be angry and there ain't no water. So just give it up and say, okay, no elders, no razzle-dazzle miracle. Forget it. So then no miracle. The whole point was to create a miracle so they'll believe. So if you thank you very much, we didn't see no miracle. Then he didn't sanctify God's name. So he's a little, pardon the pun, stuck between a rock and a hard place. Right? I so apologize for people watching this on this video. Right? So there's his dilemma. Which he should have ought to sort of like ask God, okay, God, what do we know? But he didn't, and he's going to make the call on his own, and obviously by the fact that he's going to get punished, it was the wrong call. Watch how the Malbim talks it out, okay?
But wouldn't you assume that if the point of the miracle was to restore their faith, that the elders would need it less than these?
Excellent. But if you assume that this miracle is being done, can only be done for those worthy of it, they might need a great miracle, but they're not worthy of it. And that's exactly the Benediction. Watch exactly. He said excellent. Watch exactly. Utanchuma Piresh, and Medrash Tanchuma explained Piresh so. Oh, Medrash Tanchuma explains all this. Right? The Medrash Tanchuma says very similar, to my point here, says the Malvin. Kivan Shagautam Ba'im, once he saw them coming, Amar Moshe Li'aron, Moshe said to Aaron, Mahu Ki Nuzeh, what is this gathering? Whoa, what's this gathering here? Amar Le, Aaron, so Aaron said to Moshe, Bolig Mofesed and Miriam. Oh, they're coming to mourn for Miriam. Miriam's dead. They're coming to do pay final respects to Miriam. Amar Le Moshe said, Yefshar, right? Right? Yadua lahavdil ben kinos v'kinos. You have to differentiate between gatherings and gatherings. Ain't a kinos shel takana. This is not a gathering of takana, tikkun, of putting things together, of repairing things. Ela shel kalkala, kilkul, destruction. This is a gathering of destruction. Right? Shilavaya shel takana. This was a gathering of something appropriate, like, paying respects to Miriam or doing something appropriate. There should have been at the head of them the Sari Lufting, the heads of the thousands, the Sari the heads of the hundreds. Right? And they got this out of India. The beginning he calls them an Ada. That's rushing a little bit. That the elders were in the head of them. And then it switches to the word Kahal. It was a gathering for destruction. Similarly here, gathering the Kahal, that shows it was a kinus of destruction. Now we're slowing down again, I apologize. Because this is what it makes me finish. Since God had told him, gather the Ada. He clearly did. He clearly must have said, okay, Ada, let's go, get the Ada, get the elders. He must have tried. The Torah said he must have called out to the Sanhedrin. He must have called out to the princes. They should please stand in the front. And the nation saw. And the nation saw what was going on, and they rebelled. They rebelled against the elders. The Ammonit Kapsu and the rabble gathered, the Amdu Barosh, and they pushed their way to the front. That's what must have happened. If God told Moshe to gather the Ada, that's what he must have done. Okay, everybody pay attention, just be a line. If you gather the elders, please stand over here. Here's the Sanhedrin, please make way. And they just push away, get out of here. We're not listening to Moshe. They're pushing the elders and the Sanhedrin away, and they're all in front of coming, just, we're all here, man, just go. Yeah, just go, we're done, we're here, just go. Morim, rebellious people. Shimon HaMorim, you rebellious people. I'm trying to gather an Ada. I asked for order. I asked, please, where are your elders? Where are the leaders? What are you guys doing? You're rabble-rousers. You're rebellious people. You have no derech eretz. You're not following orders. This is the group that he has. That's what he calls them rebel. What did they rebel against? Shimon HaMorim. Listen to the rebellious ones, right? In the puzzle. What did they rebel? Some people said, well, because they asked for water. Everybody said, God never said he was angry that they asked for water. You're right. He's not calling them Morim, rebellious ones, because of the request for water. God wasn't angry that they asked for water. They were more because he was angry because he requested Ada, please, and they said, we're a kahal over here, just keep going. All right? That's rebellious. They're not following orders. Rebellion against the proper order of derech eretz. Now what's he going to do? Hamon nikabsu, the rabble gathered. Vamdu baroshi stood in the front. V'hemei namru yim l'neis gadol. They're not worthy of this great miracle. Of this miracle. Shitapechi sod afar, that the element of earth, you Solomon, should turn into water. They're not worthy of such a miracle. It's never going to work. It's not going to happen. Miracles happen for those that are worthy of it, and they ain't worthy of it, so there's no point in trying. V'dai, it's enough. In Yotziyat HaMayim HaNikavim B'Sel, if I will take out the water that's bored into, that's seeped into the water, to give them, just to get rid of their thirst. V'Elzemar, and that's why he said, Shimon HaMorim, listen, you rebellious ones. Achar, because Shatem Morim Umamrim Biskeneim, since you are rebelling and pushing away your elders. The Medrash says in this passage, what are Morim, teachers? Morim are rebellious ones, Morim are teachers. What do you mean Morim are teachers? Because they try to teach the people that teach their teachers are rebellious people. Right? You don't teach your teacher. Right? Hamorim is Morim, they try to teach their teachers. And therefore he said, Hamin hasela hazeh, out of this rock, notzi lachem mayim. Can I turn this rock into water for you guys? The emphasis is not Hamin Asel Hazeh, this rock. It was the wrong rock, like Rashi said. And it's not Haminasela from this rock. We, like the Ramban said, we will take out the water. The emphasis on out of this rock can we take a water for you guys. We're not worthy for that. So we'll just crack it open and take the water that's inside and be quiet, won't be thirsty. How is it possible can do such a big miracle? To take water out of the element of earth itself, meaning the big miracle. She said how far the earth element, Shelasela of the rock, will become the light into water. Such a taking out, is pointed to us, to Moshe and Aaron, because the reason Moshe and Aaron have to do it, because they have to be that outside force, right? That's coming by forcing the rock into annulling itself. Meaning the earth element of itself has to destroy itself. Meaning this rock, the earthiness of it. Can I get the selaness to be water? And that's they said, no, see we, because we're the ones that have to do it. We have to do it by hitting. As I said, as opposed to you will take water out of the cellar. Skip the parentheses. But such a miracle, lo yaseh rak l'te'askenim haruim, are only in front of the worthy elders. Lo lachem, not you bums. Atem amorim mismarim, you guys are trying to teach your teachers, you're not worthy as a miracle, and I ain't doing it. And therefore, what do we do? Next page, very bottom, Yud Aleph. So Moshe lifted up his hand. Al Pizad, based on all this, Moshe saw Shalom Levad, not only she would see Mayim Yisod Hafar, not only can we take water out of the earth element, Shalasel of the rock, Shagam, even the little miracle. Lord, see Mayim and Ekzim Basel, to take the water that is absorbed into the rock. He cannot do it. She says Al Yidei Dibur, by doing it through speaking. He can't even do that either. God said, gather the Ada. Gather the Ada, do small miracle, and after the small miracle, do great miracle. No Ada, then you know what? No miracle. That's what he tells you. Right? God said it has to be an Ada. Shem Ziknean, the elder. Like in Choreh. Even this, that the water should come out its water, and ekvim bo that are bored into it. It should make about to use a stick, shabo. Like he always did his miracles with a stick, and he hit it with a stick. Therefore the pasuk says, "V'yetzu mayim rabim." A lot of water came up. Hainu, meaning sheyetzu amayim shenimtzu nikvim basela. The water that was holed up in the rock came out. Doesn't say he took water out, because he didn't take the water out. He just cracked it open, and the water burst out. There's water there, it came out. Right? He came up by itself, by hitting it. He opened up the opening of the spring, and naturally it came out. And that's what he did. And he thought he did the right thing. Because he knew he felt he certainly could not do the major miracle, because for God's sakes, they're a kahal. And they're certainly not worthy for that. And to even do the minor miracle, God said the whole plan was with an Ada. So if there's no Ada, Moshe figured the whole plan is over. The whole plan is over. So I'll just hit it and give him to drink. And he felt he did the right thing. But he didn't. Exactly because of what he said. Continues the mountain. So Hashem says to Moshe and Aaron, Yan lo emanten bi. You didn't believe in me, or as the Malbim will translate a little better, you didn't cause others to. You didn't create belief in me. You could have created belief in me by doing the miracle, and you did not create belief in me. Hashem Hudiela Moshe, Hashem told Moshe, Shechata Baza, he sinned with this. He should not have changed the words of God. Even though the Ada did not gather Shemas Kenim, which are the elders. Ra Kaka'al, rather the Kahal. Shem Hahamon, that's the rebel. And the Ein Derech Shiasanes Gadol. And it's not the normal way that such a great miracle, that elements should switch. It's not normal that such a miracle should be done rock. Normally it's only the Mamad Anashim Dolim in front of great people. Muchanim, Miskutam, who are worthy because of their merit. When it's such a great miracle. You're right. Normally that's true, but as you suggested, in a Yesh Havdel there's a difference in Yas Hashem Nes L'Chavod Yisrael B'Zchutam. Is God doing a miracle in honor of the Jews and in their merit? They're worthy of me making life easier for them. So let's do them a miracle because they deserve it. So we see Amar Azkanim, then you need the elders, Anshe Haruach, and the spiritual people, Hamuchanim, B'Zchutam, who are worthy in their merit for this. But sometimes, Yaseh Hashem Nes Gadol, God does a great miracle, Lo L'Chavod Yisrael B'Zchutam, not in honor of the Jews and in their merit, but for God's great name, Rak L'Chvod Shmo, in God's honor, L'man Yaminu Bo, so they should believe in Him. Al Yidei Hautot, through the miracles, Asher Hu Oseh Le'im, that He does in front of them. Ubezeh Ya'apeh, and for such a miracle, it's actually the opposite. Because who needs a miracle more? The Kahal. The Eida's worthy of having life be made easy for them through great miracles. They deserve it. Sometimes God will do it, and then everybody manages to tag along with the blessing, right? Stick with the righteous people. God makes life a little easier for them, and you sort of, roll along, right? The followers, right? But sometimes God does miracles because they need it for their faith. That is exactly the opposite. The Eidah, they don't need miracles for their faith, right? It's the Kahal that needs the miracle for their faith, right?
It's exactly the point of the nature of doing it this way. Had he done this to the Eidah, the end of Act 2, which is a depressing moment, where he says you can't drink the water, because they have great emunah, they would have said, okay. Right? And it wouldn't have had the impact of people saying, how are we going to live? The water's gone. Which is what the Chal would have done.
Right.
Right? This whole miracle was set up. I don't know. The question really is, why did God tell him an Eidah? Because the whole miracle is set up for this crowd.
Good point. Good. So let him finish. Hang on. Okay. Now, ubezeh, right? And in this area of, if you look at it, who needs the miracle more? Yeah, because the opposite. Based on what God saw that their faith was lost, the Nitratan was cut out, milibotam, for the hearts of the people. Yosif lafli etam, hefla upele. God will more miraculously, wondrously do wondrous pella nisim gedolim, big wondrous miracles. Ma'od, a lot. L'man yashuvu lamibo, so they should go back and believe in Him. And that's what happened at that time. Shara Hashem, God saw, Kirofafa ha'amunah, the belief was weakened. The nechlasha, and also weakened. B'lavav ha'kal, in the hearts of the kahal. Al came therefore, Tzival Moshe commanded the Moshe should see Amayim Oidei Nes Gadol, that he take the water out through a huge razzle-dazzle miracle. Right, that two-step process. Shabo Yikadesh L'Odem, God should become sanctified in front of their eyes. V'yad Nes Hazen Nachutz Yoter L'Fnei Hamon. This miracle was even more needed for the rabble. Shayuk Tanei Amanah. They were the small faith, more than in front of the elders. And they needed it. Right? Now, God did say to gather the Eidah. Because remember, though the Eidah would be in front, everybody else would still be there. And they would see it. But with the Eidah in front, you have the merit of the elders to help it along. Right? But Moshe should have realized, even without the Eidah, which is the normal way, if the Kahal is there, then all the more so should you use your two-step process. For God's sakes, they need it. Just hitting the rock and cracking it open ain't going to do nothing for these guys, right? Especially as nuts as they are, clearly, right? They've lost it here. Right? It's nothing. It's going to do nothing for them. And the whole point, God was doing this miracle to create faith in them before they're entering Eretz Yisrael. So you're right. We don't have the people who are worthy of it in front, which is the way it normally should be, but now, but if the whole point is great faith in the people, look what you've done. Now the opportunity is lost. There's water, and no one's thirsty anymore, and there's we can't sanctify my name anymore. You missed the call, right? You misunderstood what the point was here. Okay. That's what he means. Because you didn't, not believe in me, but you didn't create faith in me. Upal Yotze, it's an active verb. Shalo asitem davar, you didn't do something sheyigrom which would cause sheyamidu be that the Jews would believe in me. Kitachlit hanei sazeh, the goal of this miracle, lo hayalakvod Yisrael, was not to honor the Jews. Rak l'kvodi was to honor me, God. like the Shani, to sanctify me, Lene Ben Israel in front of the Jewish people. Who was saying that this Elachem Terutz, you can't give an excuse to Asitim Nes Gadol, you didn't do a great miracle, Kaleo was Keni Ben Mamad, because the elders weren't standing there. Shadrach, the exact opposite. Nes Kazeh, such a miracle, Machutz Yoter is more needed, Lefnei Amon in front of the rabble. Miloteh in front of the elders. And that was his mistake. But now the problem is, so was it a horrible mistake? Was it an evil mistake? Was it just a tough call he called bad? It was a tough call. And he made a bad call. But look at the terrible punishment. Not going to go to Eretz Yisrael just for this. It was a tricky call. God said Edo. Well, last time it was an Edo. It's the Edo that's only worthy of it. The rabble's not worthy. Supposedly you're right, they're not worthy, but they need it, and the purpose of the miracle is not to give them water, the purpose of the miracle is to create faith. God never said the purpose of the miracle is to create faith. Moses said the purpose of the miracle is to give them water. Right? So why give them water in a wrestle that's a miracle? They don't deserve it. Give them stinky old regular water. Right? The guy said, no, you missed the point, man. The point of it was not the water. The point was the sanctification. Well, I didn't realize that. So, okay, it was a wrong call. It was a mistaken call. The punishment is so horrific. Continues the Malbim, the calls out, nevertheless. Lo hayur l'gzar al yidei kas onesh al Moshe. For such a thing, there shouldn't be such a decree of punishment on Moshe. The an Aaron. What an Aaron? Shehem, Shamru, Dvar Hashem. They did keep the word of God. God did say, do this miracle in front of an Ada. That's what God said. Dafki said the word Ada. That's the court. God did not say the word Kahal. Shebamut is the rebel. They shouldn't have done what they did. Right? They shouldn't have done things based on their own thinking. They followed God's word to the letter. What is God mad at them? You should have not followed my word to the letter, because you should have realized what the idea was and switched. There are people that say, well, this is why we drive to shul on Shabbos, because we don't follow the letter of the law, we follow the intention. Right? Well, you know that's not true. Right? So God's intention might have been whatever it was, but God said Ada. Right? So why are they being punished so much? Al-Kain Hosif Otam Acher. Therefore, the God says in the next pasuk another reason. Tue May Mariva. These are the waters of contention that the Jews fought about. Shagad sheyesh Moshe not salute. Even though Moshe has an excuse. And listen to this, Rabbi. Even though Moshe has an excuse. Mashalo milei divrei Hashem, that he didn't fulfill the words of God, Shetziva, that he commanded Shlo Yashku Eda b'mayim rishonim, that he should not give the Eda water from the first waters. To the natural waters. The rock he should only hit the rock after Shloim Sabaod Mai, after there's no more water inside of the Yotzi Mai Nisiyim Mehapoki Soda Farlamayim. Right? And he should take the natural water out first and then turn the rock into water. Shalzeh Shiv Moshe, that on that two-step plan that God created, Moshe has a response. Shenez Gadol Kazeh, such a great miracle. Lo Yachol Lasot, rock with Ne'adeh, such a great miracle can only be done in front of an Ada. Kamosha Kazuv, Kamosha Amar Lo Hashem, as God said. Ada, Lo Lefnei Kahal V'Amani, not in front of the rabble. I'll call upon him nevertheless. So Moshe's right. And that he has a good point. Right? To empty the water out and turn the rock into water, he was afraid to do it. Because God said Ada, it makes sense, it has to be Ada, and he was following God's word. Right? But, here's really his mistake. I'll call upon him nevertheless. The Mayim Harishonim, the first waters, Sheyatzu min hasela, that came out of the rock, which is granted the natural water. Shey Mayim Hanakvim b'tocho, the water that is gathered in there. Hayalo lasot kefit tzivui Hashem, that he could have done on God's command, Shomerlei, that God did say Shidabru Lasela, that he should speak to the rock, Lo Shiyaku Oto, not to hit it. He could have done the first step. The first step was do minor miracle by talking and it'll crack open. Then do major miracle, turn into water by hitting. So he didn't want to do the major miracle of turn it into water by hitting, because that needs an Ada. But what about the original minor miracle? Of talking to it and it cracks open. Why did Moshe think that needs an Ada? God said gather an Ada. But Moshe should have been able to figure out, God said gather an Ada, not so much for the first minor miracle, but because for stage 2 miracle, that needs an Ada. But Moshe should have been able to figure out, if I don't have an Eidah, step one miracle, that miracle we could even do for a Kahal. And Moshe did 0 miracle. He cracked it. That was his mistake. Okay? You Amrin. Because if he would have spoken to it, they would have said, Moshe had, all right, I'm sorry, because by hitting it, because the way Moshe did it, they said, Moshe just knew where the hole of the spring was. Gal Naul, it was a closed up rock, Mayan Chatum, a closed up spring, and he hit it, and he knew how to hit it in the right place. Right? And therefore he did no miracle. He could have done the minor miracle. And that was his mistake. Here to work. And on this adds the Malbim, but still I have one more question. Okay, he made a mistake. He did not sanctify God's name when he could have. Because he could have at least done the minor miracle. That the Kahal could have handled. And he should have realized that though God said the word Eidah, obviously it was not relevant to the first stage of the minor miracle, because he himself should have known that's not why God said the word Eidah. God said the word Eidah for step 2. If there's not going to be a step 2 because there's no Eidah, he should have caught himself that for the minor miracle, the Kahal was certainly sufficient. That was a bad call on his part. Correct. You want to go to the Hirsch, he was freaked out, he was angry, he was cranky, he wasn't thinking, fine. Okay? But asked the Malbim, okay, so it was a bad call. But still, such a punishment? It wasn't a horrible call. It was a bad call. Why such a terrible punishment? And most important, Midah Keneged Midah. Where's the measure for measure? What does not going to Eretz Yisrael have to do with making a wrong call and not doing a miracle to sanctify God's name? The sin was you didn't get the Jews to believe in me. Right? His problem was he could have at least done a little miracle to get the Jews to believe in him, and he didn't. Fine. So he made a bad call on the little miracle. But still, the sin was not doing a miracle to get Jews to believe. What does the sin of not getting Jews to believe in him have to do with the punishment of not going to the land of Israel? It's not measure for measure. Hear the problem? Listen to a Pella Dikabam. I'll throw it to you outside because we're running out of time. Says the Malbim. That's one more. Says the Malbim, and the Orchaim HaKadosh says the same idea. Hold it around and watch. It's not a punishment. What it is, now you got to listen carefully. I'm going to mix a little bit the Malbim and a little bit the Orchaim, because they're on the same thing, and they, a little bit of a background. Watch. The original plan had nothing gone wrong. The Jews are going to be led into Israel by Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe would have conquered the land. Had Moshe brought them into the land, had there been no sin, no how, no way, and have gotten the Torah and a couple of days later dashed into the land with, no complaints about food, and no Korach rebellion, no sin of the spies, no sin of the golden calf, nothing would have gone wrong. The original plan, get out of Egypt, split the sea, kill the Egyptians, go to Mount Sinai, get the Torah, and go to Israel. That's what was supposed to happen. They kept on getting stole. Sold the golden calf, stole them, God had Moshe had to pray for the Jewish people, they had to build a Mishkan. That took time, right? Then they're on their way to the spies. They lost another 30 years, right? Korach rebellion, right? But the original plan was go to Mount Sinai, get the Torah, go to Israel, be led by Moshe. They would have conquered the land miraculously because Moshe is the leader of the Jews in the beyond nature mode. When they had to fight Amalek, did Moshe fight Amalek? No. What did Moshe do? What was he told? Choose Yoshua, right? Moshe prayed. Joshua led the battle. Joshua, when you need to physically fight, Joshua does it. Moshe is above nature. Would have led to the land of Israel. They would have conquered the land. Moshe would have built the temple, right? And everything would have been filled. A temple built by Moshe never could have been destroyed. Everything Moshe does was permanent. Temple built by Moshe never could have been destroyed. Now they're ready to enter the land of Israel. All right? If they enter the land of Israel, there's a medrash that says that God destroying the temple when the Jews sinned was a good thing for the Jews. Why? It said, Shafach apo, but God poured out his wrath on stones, not on the people. Rather than destroying the Jews, he destroyed the temple. So the destruction of the temple is actually considered a tova, a good thing on the hand of God, because at least he took it out on the stones of the temple, not on the Jewish people. Though many Jews died during the destruction of the first temple and or the second temple, but we still remained as a nation. Right? Because there was a temple to destroy. If Moshe would have built the temple would not have been able to have been destroyed. Which means if the Jews ever would have sinned and they would have had to be punished, God couldn't have destroyed the temple in order to punish the Jews. So the only resort God would have had was to destroy the Jews. Therefore, you could only have Moshe leading the Jews into Israel and building the temple if God could be assured that they're entering the land on such a level of faith that they will not sin and not be and will never need any punishment. Because Moshe did not sanctify God's name, you didn't create faith in the Jews. The Jews are now not on a level worthy of being led into Israel by Moshe, winning the battles miraculously, and having him build a temple which will never be destroyed. They're not worthy for such an approach. They're going to screw it up. They're going to goof up. They're not worthy they're not on such a high level to have such a thing. They're going to go to Israel. You'll take them in, you'll build them a temple, and they're going to mess up because they're not on a high level of faith. And then when I have to punish them, what am I going to do? I won't be able to destroy the temple because Moses built it. Therefore, because you did not get the Jews to believe in me, therefore you will not lead them into Israel. Not as a punishment, it's just a cause and effect. Because you didn't get the Jews to believe in me, they're not on the level worthy of having you be the guy to bring them in and build the temple. So what can I do? You can't do it. Because they're not worthy of your leadership. They're not worthy of your building of the temple. So I can't let you go in there and I can't let you build the temple because then the Jews are going to be in trouble because they're not on the level of you doing that. Because they're going to sin and I want to have a temple that I can destroy. Because if I have a temple I can't destroy, it's going to be them that are going to get destroyed. And therefore you brought about your own downfall. It's not a punishment. It's just the reality of the system. Hear the godless? Look inside the verses for 1 second. Watch.
Moshe got set up.
No. He made the wrong call, and he's living with it's not a punishment. He's just living with the consequences. In the All Hebrew, page 260. Chapter 20, verse 10. Chapter 20, verse 10, page 260, Pasuk Yud. So they killed Moshe and Aaron as a kahal. Moshe and Aaron gathered the people, but they came as a kahal. El Paneso in front of the cellar. It was the rabble that were standing in front watching, not the elders who were worthy of such a miracle. So Yomer Lahem, and therefore Moshe said to them, Shimu no Hamorim, listen, you rebellious people who have pushed the elders away from the front, and you pushed yourselves through the front. Haminasela Hazeh, from this rock, Notzi, Lachem, Moyim, for you, rabble, can we turn this rock into water? I cannot do step 2 of the miracle and turn this rock into water for guys like you. You're not worthy of it. The problem was that they needed it, all right, but they're not worthy of it. So at least do step 1 and talk to the rock and do the minor miracle. That doesn't need an Ada Moshe. No miracle, not even a little one. So Hashem el Moshe, verse 12, Pasuk Yud Beis 262. So Hashem says to Moshe el Aaron, Yad lo hedman tebi, because you did not cause faith in me. That's how the Malbim translates it as doing. You didn't get the Jews to believe in me. Lakti Sheni, you didn't sanctify me, Lady Bnei Yisrael. Lochein, therefore, lo savio, you simply cannot bring et kahal hazeh, this kahal, who are rabble and unfaithful. You just can't do it. El says you can't do it. You can't bring him into the land that gave them. You just can't. Because they're not worthy of it. You're going to bring them in, you'll build the temple, and then when they mess up again, what are we going to do? Destroy them? Because I can't destroy the temple, you build it. So they're not worthy of you leading them in, so you're stuck. Sorry. Nothing we can do. And don't look at me, it's your fault, you didn't sanctify my name. It's your fault they don't believe me, not my fault they don't believe me. That's the way it goes.
Why did Hashem tell Moshe to gather Ada if he could have just gathered this kahal?
No. So according to the Malbim, he did need an Ada for the second step miracle. And had Moshe at least done step 1, it might have been okay.
Maybe
Right.
Maybe if he did step
Well,
1,
maybe they would
then
have
they would have been like, all right, and then the elders can go to
Right,
the...
exactly. Something would have happened, but he did 0 miracles.
But
Like, you would have thought that maybe Moshe would have had this clue by now that, like, Hashem would have seen that Moshe would have done this, so he would tell him, like, that is...
Oh, no, free will, my good man. Up until the last day of your life, free will.
No, but I mean, he could have just given him more instructions. He could have, he could have told him, bring the kal and then bring the Eidah, and then they would have protected Moshe from screwing up.
True, but God, you gotta call, make your call. God never makes it too clear. If it's too clear, then there's no
So I
choice.
have two things. One, so the big miracle of turning the rock into water would have been enough to turn the rabble into...
And Ada, who would have been worthy of Moshe's leadership, and then they would have entered Israel on a whole different plane.
Yeah.
Moshe would have owned the temple, everything would have razzle-dazzle, end of the story, and everything would have been super duper. Mashiach, goodbye, finished.
That would have been enough?
That
It seems...
seemingly.
Okay.
Right? Yeah, I hear your point.
Yeah.
Had a lot of other miracles.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, okay, so, but seemingly, and they would have entered, right? At least they would have worthy of it. I hear.
The other thing is, so why doesn't the Rashi or Ramban or anyone bring this?
Oh, why don't they? That's all rocky. Because the Malbim thought of it, and there's problems with this, right? If we would have like more and more weeks, we could take it apart, right? Right? Now, we're running out of time. Next week's our last week. Pay attention to what we're going to do. We're probably going to do that famous Hirsch, who has this whole, that Moshe's cranky approach, which only Hirsch could say. You got to be careful how you say, you're talking about Moshe, right? Well, to his own, and then we're going to end with an Abar Bernal, who after all the explanations that you've heard, just totally different. More different than this, right? What? Next week, same time, same bat time, same bat.